Hello there everyone. Today I'll be explaining the oxidation and reduction reactions from the lesson Chemical Reactions and Equations. So let's get started. First, let's begin with the oxidation reaction. I'll explain every reaction with examples. So the first example I'm going to show is 2Cu plus O2 on heating becomes 2CuO, which is copper and oxygen on heating become copper oxide. So this is an oxidation reaction, and from this equation we can conclude that oxidation is a process in which oxygen is added to a substance. So in this reaction, oxygen is added to copper, and at the end of the reaction, copper and oxygen combine together to form copper oxide. So let's look at another example, which is 2H2S, which is hydrogen sulfide plus oxygen becomes 2S plus 2H2O, which are sulfur and hydrogen oxide or water. So this is hydrogen sulfide, oxygen and sulfur and water. So this is another oxidation reaction, and from this equation we can conclude that oxidation is a process in which hydrogen is removed from a substance. So in this reaction, hydrogen is being removed from sulfur, or from hydrogen sulfide, hydrogen is being removed and only sulfur remains at the end of the reaction, and hydrogen is getting oxidized and hydrogen becomes water at the end of the reaction. So hydrogen combines with oxygen to become water, and sulfur gets separated from H2S, and it stands alone at the end of the reaction. Now let's move on to reduction. So reduction, I'll be explaining reduction with two examples. So the first one is 2KClO3, which is potassium chlorate. It becomes 2KCl plus 3O2, which is potassium chlorate becomes potassium chloride and oxygen. So from this reaction we can conclude that reduction is a process in which oxygen is removed from a substance. So from potassium chlorate, oxygen is removed, and at the end of the reaction it becomes potassium chloride and oxygen. They get separated. So this is exactly the opposite of oxidation. In oxidation, oxygen is added to a substance, whereas in reduction, oxygen is removed from a substance. It's going to be the same way with the next reaction 2, which is 2Na plus H2, which becomes 2NaH, which is sodium and hydrogen becomes sodium hydride. Sodium hydride. So from this equation we can infer that reduction is a process in which hydrogen is added to a substance. So it's again exactly the opposite as oxidation, where hydrogen is removed from a substance. If we go back to oxidation, like hydrogen is removed from hydrogen sulfide and sulfur stands alone, and hydrogen gets combined with oxygen, which is hydrogen is oxidized and it becomes water. So here is exactly the opposite. Hydrogen combines with sodium to form sodium hydride. So we can conclude that reduction is a reaction. Reduction is a process in which hydrogen is added to a substance. Now let's move on to the redox reactions, but before that let's talk about the oxidizing agent and reducing agent or the reduction agent. So the oxidizing agent is a substance which can bring about oxidation of other substances. So that's called the oxidizing agent. And the reducing agent is a substance which can bring about the reduction of other substances. So it's exactly what their name means. Like the oxidizing agent brings about oxidation and reducing agent brings about reduction. So now let's move on to the redox reactions, and I'm here with two more examples like I did for the oxidation and reduction reactions. So here too I have two examples, which are CuO plus H2 on heating becomes Cu plus H2O, which is copper oxide plus hydrogen become copper and water. So in this reaction, copper is being reduced, which is oxygen is removed from copper. So reduction takes place and hydrogen is being oxidized, which is oxygen is added to hydrogen. So that is oxidation happening there. So hydrogen is oxidized and copper is being reduced. Now let's look at another example, which is MnO2 plus 4HCl becomes MnCl2 plus Cl2 plus H2. Okay, so here Mn is being reduced, which is Mn is manganese. So manganese is, wait a second, yeah, so manganese is reduced and oxygen is removed from it. Manganese is reduced as oxygen is removed from it. So here a reduction takes place and HCl is oxidized, but you don't see any oxygen being added, right? So don't get confused. Hydrogen is being removed from HCl and it just becomes Cl, so which is also a process of oxidation. So like removal of hydrogen is oxidation basically. So here oxidation takes place. So the definition of redox reaction, so yeah, redox reactions are reactions in which oxidation and reductions take place simultaneously. So those are redox reactions.